Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. It's Friday morning, October 30th. Hard to believe another month is gone. We only have 2 more months left to go in the year. So thank you very much for being with us today. Our agenda, first thing we're doing is we'll start with success stories. I know of 4 different landings so far this month, or this week, and I know at least one of the people is with us today to tell us his story. Um, After that, we'll go have everybody put in their 30-second introductions, put them in the chat box. Then we'll go to our committee reports, and then we'll have our speaker. For those people who are on Zoom, we ask that we make sure you've got your full first and last name, like there's somebody there called B. Walker. If you can please make sure you edit your name, and by doing that, if you just hover over the microphone camera feature, then it'll pop up and say where you can rename yourself. And we ask that you rename yourself so that we can get your full name on the roster. And the reason I do that, especially now, is as of November 1st or November 2nd, you have to start keeping track of for TWC for your contacts that you're making every week for TWC to collect your unemployment benefits. So this way I'll have names on the roster. So if you don't have your full first and last name on there, please do that. Especially if you don't do that, please be sure to put your information in the chat box. That way I can get your full name when we put in our 30-second introductions. If you have questions throughout the presentation, we ask that you just put them into the chat box. And for those people on Facebook right now, please just enter your questions into the comment field. I am monitoring that feed, and I'll make sure that we get those questions answered. Please note this event is currently live and being recorded on Facebook. The recording will be on the Career DTW Facebook page and on the Career USA YouTube channel for others to view in the future. By participating in this event, if you post a comment in the chat box or have your microphone or camera on, you give consent for your comments, name, and picture to appear. Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Jeff Morris. I've been facilitating and leading the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group since 2007. In 2008, I started Career DFW to help people by putting everything you need to know about your job search in one place. In 2012, I launched CareerUSA.org to help people outside the DFW area. I've also written a book called What I've Learned About Your Job Search That You May Not Know. You can get it on Amazon for 15 bucks, but if you want to drive by my house, I'll throw one through your window, like the domino frisbee guy. You can throw 10 bucks out the car, so you save 5 bucks if you want to drive by and pick up a copy of the book. And since 2017, I've been a member of the practice interview team. Well, we love to start the meeting off with good news. Like I said, we have 4 landings this morning. Very, very excited. So we'll start out with our first success story. Mark, please tell us about your landing.
Hey, everybody. Good morning. Mark Olsberg here. Yeah, great news. I landed a job at Geoforce, which is in the telematics GPS hardware software business in Plano as a senior product manager. And, an interesting event is I lost my job in December 2019 because the company I was working for downsized. I took a 2-month break to kind of see what I wanted to do, and then COVID hit. I really didn't start looking until about May, and it took about 6 months to get my job. But the thing that I did, and I learned this from the last time, is I signed up for the notices, the instant email notifications of jobs for both LinkedIn, ZipRecruiter, and Indeed. And as soon as those popped up on my email, I did, if there was an easy apply feature, I would hit easy apply. I found that it really helped to be first in line to get the resume in. I would say when I started, I interviewed fairly well. The first phone calls were almost always from recruiters, in-house recruiters. I did well in those interviews. I'd say about 90% of the time I'd get a second interview. It's a second or third interview, and most of those, in fact, all of those except for one were by Zoom. And then I would get discouraged because there were 4 or 5 several rig opportunities where it was down to myself and another candidate, and I didn't get the job. And I started wondering, what was going on. But I persevered and I really stuck to it. And then just lo and behold, 3 weeks later, things started falling in, and this company moved very fast and selected me, and it's a great fit. I was willing to expand my search of where I would work as far as Fort Worth, Arlington. I live in Plano. I even downgraded my salary requirements, but the job I found met all the check marks. Great salary, right here in Plano, and I actually know someone who works there. So I would say, persevere, keep at it. In fact, what is most ironic is this last week, I've had to send decline emails out to people saying, hey, thanks for the opportunity for a second interview with, but I've already chosen another position. And so sometimes, you get a drought and all of a sudden it rains and it pours. But I'm very happy. And I owe a lot of thanks, Jeff, to you and to the team here. A lot of my skills that I picked up last time, but they're very helpful with me regarding the tenacity to look for a job and the interview skills to get the job done. So thank you very much.
Mark, thank you very, very much. I mean, we love to hear, great news and good stories. I think you said you're going to work for Geoforce as a senior product manager.
Senior product manager, that's correct.
Okay. So somebody else was asking about that in the chat box. So very good. Well, congratulations. Thank you. All right, let's see here. We've got a couple other landings. Diane Duvin, I don't know how to pronounce her last name. She just emailed me. She was hoping to be with us this morning. She actually starts on Monday. She says, I wanted to say thanks to all your help during my job search. The insights, suggestions, and contacts have been tremendous support during these crazy times. It will be a very beneficial asset in my new role. I've landed a contract position with my target company, Scholastics Education. I'm thrilled to be working with them. She starts on Monday, and the reason she can't be with us is she's already been on her third phone call this morning, dealing with what she'll be doing starting on Monday. So she was not able to join us this morning. Another landing we have is Laura Van Camp. Laura, are you with us? No, okay. Laura wanted to send a big note of thanks to everybody who does work with Career DFW. I started engaging with the site and your weekly programming back in the height of the pandemic. The content was relevant and helpful in my job search. I do have good news. I've accepted a marketing role with Gladirma, and I'm excited I'll be relocating from the DFW area from Kansas City. So thanks again for everything. So, I have no idea as I do these. I mean, I just have names popping up here. I have no idea where you're watching from. So if you're watching from somewhere outside the DFW area, please put that in the chat box so I can just have an idea of where you're watching. So that's number 3. And then our fourth landing that I know about is Ann, who's going to work at Dematic as a software consultant with the software solution team. She wanted to send a big thank you to everybody and for our group support during the search this year. The workshops and discussion were helpful in staying focused and positive. I'm glad to share that I've landed. She actually landed last month, and it's based up in Louisville, but it's be working remote from home now due to the pandemic. Also, and she said this, and I did post a job listing. It's coming up here, a job fair, virtual job fair they're having. Dynamic is hiring in other departments as well. So please, I would encourage everybody to take a look at that website. And I think when we get to Eldon here in just a second, I think the job fair is coming up next week. If not, check out the website, DEMATIC, because they do have other positions open. Is there anybody else online who's landed that we need to know about? Anybody else? Going once? Going twice? Well, great. We love to have all these landings every week. It's very good. And I think that takes us, let's see, 71. So this may make 75 for the year. So I'm thinking we're at 75 or 76. I'll have to go take a look and see. All right. So it's time now for everybody to open up your chat box. And for those on Facebook, you just put your information in the comment field. We'd like you to put in your name, comma, phone number, comma, email address, comma, the position you're looking for, 2 or 3 target companies, and then hit the return key. And what I will do is I will make sure that I share that information with everybody this afternoon. I will get that out into an email, and hopefully you can help. Hopefully you can help somebody else who's on the list here. So please just put that information in now. I'll give you 60 seconds on the clock. people on Facebook, I will go and I will delete that information, your personal information. As soon as this meeting's over, I'll copy it off the Facebook page, and then I'll delete it so it won't be hanging out there for you. All right, let's see here. All right, so it's time for job fairs, career workshops, training, and all those kinds of things that Eldon likes to talk about. So Eldon, good morning.
Good morning, Jeff, and good morning, everybody. Happy Friday, and if I don't see you on Halloween, happy Halloween. The information I'm about to convey to you comes from the website careerdfw.org. The calendar tab, I focus on career and job fairs and special workshops or events. There are, however, many different tabs on the calendar that you can look at the information on there. I go through these things fairly quickly, so if you hear something that is of interest, I urge you to go to the calendar, click on the item of interest, and you will usually find a link or more information about that particular upcoming event. Having said that, this week's career and job fairs, the Plano Career Fair virtual by National Career Fairs will be held Thursday, November 5th from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And there's a link on the calendar to go to register for that or to participate. The 9th annual Hiring Red, White, and You virtual job fair will be held Thursday, November 5th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And there is a link for that one.
And I think that is Eldon, I think that is a statewide event. So there's going to be several, if it's not this link, depending on where you're located at. The local TWC offices may be having their own little link. So, check out TWC to get the latest, but this is a statewide event.
Yeah, the link they have in there is their link, but a specific hiring event. They may have, once you get on that, they may have a list of by area you can log on. Right. But anyway, if you're interested in that, go to that link. And finally, the Arlington Job Fair by Best Hire Career Fairs will be held Thursday, November 5th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. And again, there's a link for that one. This week's special workshops or events, online only at this time, the Who You Know Career Transition Summit will be held Monday, November 2nd from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. There's a Zoom link for that. That's hosted by Foster Williams. And if you don't know Foster Williams, I urge you to get to know Foster Williams. Online, LinkedIn Tuesdays at 1 p.m. That meeting will occur Tuesday, November 3rd from 1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. There's a Zoom link for that and also a Facebook link. Again, online, Interviewing Wednesdays at 1, special guest series. Join us for Interviewing Wednesday at 1 p.m. for our special guest series for November and December. The 13th part of that workshop the 13-part workshop will start again in January 2021. This week's session, Confident Candidate, Lessons from the Pit Crew with Mark McDonald. Online, Resumes Thursdays online sessions with certified career coach Carol Brickell. Thursday, November 6th from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. And there's a Zoom link and a Facebook link for that one. The Power Networking Strategy presented by Jay Arbetter will be held at St. Andrews Career Care. It's sponsored by St. Andrews Career Care, and that'll be on Thursday, November 5th from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. There's a Zoom link for that. And if you've never heard Jay Arbetter speak, I urge you to try to participate in that. It'd be a very informative workshop. And finally, Goodwill Industries of Dallas Women Job Seekers Workshop will be held Saturday, November 7th, and there's two sessions, one from 10 to 11 a.m. and one from 1 to 2 p.m. The first session consists of personal grooming, hair and makeup, writing professional emails, attire and dressing professionally, and the 1 to 2 session deals with interview tips and tricks, how to build a resume tips and tricks, and how to build a capsule wardrobe. And there's a link for that one to go to find out more about those two sessions. And that's it for this week.
Great, Eldon. Thank you very, very much. All right. So just as a reminder, if you're not sure where to find other networking groups, I know I had somebody email me yesterday going, where can I find groups to meet at? And I sent them this link here. If you click on the webinar, teleseminar radio, the blue arrow on the right-hand side, it will take you to a screen, a calendar to look, one of the other calendars that looks something like this in light purple. And these are all the events that are going via webinar throughout the week. So if you know somebody who's looking for help, if you know somebody who needs some help, have them, tell them to go here, because they'll find lots of things going on in the DFW area every day. If you know somebody who just lost their job, I know the latest count came out down to like 760,000 people finally. It's finally getting below 800,000. You can click here. I just lost my job. What do I do now? And I've got a great article with several handouts and several checklists on things you can do to sort of get your job search going and to think about some things that you probably, just need to think about, basic things to get your job search started. It's time to hear from the Dallas pit crew. I understand y'all were busy last week. Mark.
Yes, we were busy last week. So that's the good news. And then the other good news is I have plenty of spots next week for starting on Wednesday. So Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So if you get your information in today, or Monday, we could schedule you for a practice interview next week with a high probability. So yeah, lots of people are interviewing. It's picked up the last couple of weeks pretty dramatically, and I expect that to continue. Nothing about 2020 has been like any other year in the past, but one thing that has been consistent through the years is that November and December are very busy recruiting times of year, which I was very surprised to learn, and you may be surprised as well. So don't take your foot off the gas just because the holidays are coming upon us. So the pit crew will be available, likely not the week of Thanksgiving and Christmas, but since we're virtual now, if you have a need, then send your information in, and I'm pretty sure I'll have some volunteers available. Not everybody's going to be offline. So pit crew is virtual now, and you need to send in, there you go. Let me do this first. So this is my LinkedIn profile. Go ahead, Jeff. And go ahead and LinkedIn with me. I have a pretty good network, mostly in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And all you need to do is put a brief note in there where we met at North Dallas Career Focus Group. That's good enough. And you'll become one of my first degree connections, which will help you, which will become your second degree connections, which will help you greatly in your networking and search for positions. And so, we had we had 4 announcements today, and none of those people came through the pit crew, but 2 of the companies they mentioned, we've also had candidates interview for. So it looks like Dematic and Galderma are hiring and positions available. And so that's some experience from the pit crew. People are interviewing for other kinds of roles there. So that may be one of your target companies, maybe one of your new target companies. Now take a look at what they have to offer. So yeah, link in with me. If you're ready to practice with the pit crew, and we're all about building your confidence that you can tell your story well in an interview situation. And my tagline is kind of interview early, interview often. And so you can practice as many times as you like until you reach that level of confidence. We need a job description from you to go along with your resume, because we give you a very personalized and customized interview experience based on your background and what kind of work you're looking for. And it takes about 45 minutes. You get interviewed by a group of hiring managers, usually 3. So all the volunteers for the pit crew have been hiring managers in the past. And of course, since they're volunteers, there's no cost for this, for the interviews. We do them on Zoom, so you also get feedback about your video setup, how your lighting looks, how your background looks, things like that, your camera location. Those are the 3 things we give people most feedback on, is where to position their camera and how to improve their lighting. So we'll do that for you as well. And after the interview is over, you get some feedback on what you could have done better, more effectively, and of course, what you did well is don't need to think about so much in the future. So that's the pit crew. And a couple of other things.
You have a topic you like to coach on?
Yep, coaching and the webinar. So besides organizing the pit crew, I also coach a little bit. I just coach on one topic, which is, why did you leave your last position? So that's one of the questions you need to be able to answer well, and answering that well means with brevity and confidence. And so if you've got a complicated situation, then let's have a conversation and we'll figure out how to answer that initial question, why did you leave your last position? But also any follow-up questions that might be generated based on your situation. So we'll take about an hour and figure that out, and then you can be much more prepared, much more confident, less anxious about having to answer that question when it comes up. And then finally, the webinar. So when we used to meet face-to-face, we'd have a 15 or 20-minute education session at the end of every meeting. And now that's much more formalized. We meet on Wednesday afternoons at 1 p.m. And Walt and I have 13 topics that we cover, and we just finished up with number 13 this week, a couple of days ago. So all those are available on Jeff's YouTube channel, and he'll tell you how to find those. Next week, I'm the speaker, and I'm going to do all 13 sessions in a very condensed fashion in an hour and a half, I hope.
Talk about fast talking here. We're going to have to record it and slow it way down.
So we'll hit all the areas and in an hour and a half. So there you go. That'll be a challenge, but that's what it is. And then there's in the rest of November and December, there's 5 other topics, mostly around interviewing by guest speakers. So you get to hear other people's perspective on how to interview well. And Jeff will show you the schedule, I'm sure.
Right.
So that's the Pit Crew webinar Wednesday afternoons at 1 o'clock.
And like Eldon said, the 13-part series will start over again in January. All right, Walt, good morning.
Well, good morning, everyone. Walt Glass here. I enjoy helping people gain the skills and confidence for successful hiring interviews. And I do that via the Interview Success Workshop, also known as Learning Without Squirming. I offer a workshop where I don't include anxiety, fear, stress, intimidation, all those kind of negative things that happen, because we want to just improve ourselves in an interviewing situation. And so I give you options, strategies, structures, methodologies, things that how you can answer questions and differentiate yourself very positively from other candidates. It's based on 3 things: the I am, I do, I help model, which is people hire who we are, they hire what we do, and they hire how we can help them. And so in this selling situation, which is exactly what an interview is, how can we present ourselves genuinely, authentically, and cover those 3 areas and be successful by determining whether this is a good match or not? A successful interview doesn't necessarily mean you get hired. A successful interview comes out to say, this is one that is a good match, is not a good match. If it is, I want to continue pursuing that. 2 participants per session. I do it also on Zoom. I have it on Tuesday mornings, 10 to 12. You need to be registered to attend. So look me up on LinkedIn in my About section, and you can see my email address, my Yahoo email address there. Send me an email, so I'd like to get registered so that I can participate in that. So I would say that, the first time you might come, and I invite you to come back, we have to really learn what we really need to do. How can we prepare? What is it we can prepare? How can we get ready to get started? So we start with fundamentals. You can practice those, and then you can come back and we'll do more like a pit crew type interview, except it's not a mock interview. It's still a learning situation. It is a workshop. You get to start over. You can pause and think about your answer and things. But I really hardly suggest that you do both. You can't do them too many times. Every time you practice, you get better. So I really support both of these in helping you feel a lot more confident in your interviews. Also, we'll interview, you get a video of your interview. Also, I have a handout that you're going to get and a video that goes over the handout that really covers all these basics and fundamentals, plus some other things surrounding the interview itself for your Saturday evening enjoyment. But I would love to hear from you. I would look forward to seeing you sign up and participate. So come on down.
We have a poem today or not?
I thought about one, but it's so bad. I've said better not. I think I better give it up. I might give one at the end or something. Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Walt's our speaker today, so we'll hear from him in just a few minutes. All right. It's time for the career tip of the week. Good morning, Sue Ellen.
Good morning, Jeff and everyone. Today's tip of the week is by Adam Weber. And he's talking about how having potential and being able to communicate that potential are 2 completely different things. So here's how to get your potential to shine through your next job interview. In the spring of 2019, I interviewed a job candidate with no software sales experience for a software sales position. She had scored some impressive sales wins at 2 national restaurant chains over the course of her career, but I had to figure out if she had what it took to succeed at a growing HR tech startup. Can you describe a time when you displayed creative problem solving? I asked her. The story she proceeded to tell me gave me goosebumps. January is typically one of the slowest months for restaurants, especially those that generate a lot of business from large groups of business travelers. Since this woman's main role was selling private event space at a steakhouse in downtown Indianapolis, and there are no big industry conferences in January, she knew she would have to get creative to hit her quota. After doing some research, she found that professional basketball games were the only events happening downtown in the frigid weeks following New Year's. But NBA teams need to eat too, right? After several weeks of phone calls and emails to team managers, she got a bite from the travel manager for San Francisco's NBA team. But there was a catch. He wanted a catered meal delivered to the stadium in Indianapolis before a game happening the very next day. She had never arranged a catered steak dinner before, much less to the stadium with less than 24 hours notice. But thanks to her hustle, she not only pulled it off and met her January sales quota, but also made a repeat customer out of the Golden State Warriors. Needless to say, I hired her for the job. Potential is something most hiring managers look for when filling a position. Sometimes a candidate's potential is even more important than experience, but potential can be hard to define. The dictionary definition, the capacity to become or develop into something in the future, kind of rings hollow when compared to the experience of interviewing a job candidate that radiates potential. I found that people with potential are people in motion, those who aren't content maintaining the status quo and seek continual growth and improvement. Potential says, I'm not a finished product. But having potential and being able to communicate that potential are two different things. Here are 3 ways to ensure that your potential shines through in your next job interview. I believe everyone has a thread that has been constant throughout the fabric of your career. This thread is what drives and motivates you, what you feel you were put on this earth to do. And that's present in every role you've held. My common thread is unlocking people's potential. I've occupied some very different career roles. I've been a pastor, a professor, a vice president of sales, and a human resources chief. But my core motivation has been the same through them all. Find that common thread in your career and give it a tug. Think about how it aligns with the role you're applying for and consider how to convey that the open position is the next logical step in your career journey. Most modern companies want to hire people with momentum, people who know where they're going in life, or at least have a vague idea of an ultimate career goal. I want to know the direction people are growing in and understand why they think the open role is their next step. Telling stories is the most powerful way to communicate information. According to famed author and motivational speaker Tony Robbins, the power of a single story goes far beyond simply relaying facts and data. Stories emotionalize information. They give color and depth to otherwise bland material, and they allow people to connect with the message in a deeper, more meaningful way. To communicate your true potential in a job interview, Consider preparing a few stories that give color and depth to your professional experiences. Think about a time when you demonstrated creative problem solving, your biggest professional achievement, or an instance when you had a tough decision to make. Next, run the story through the STAR framework. STAR stands for situation, task, action, results, and then I'm adding an L for learning. To really shine a spotlight on your potential, spend plenty of time on the L and refine the lessons you learned. In interviews, I love asking questions like, what would you do differently? And name an opportunity that you could have handled better. These questions open the floor for the candidate to showcase their ability to critically assess the past and imagine a different future. That's a foundational aspect of a growth mindset. It's tempting to go into an interview and try to cast an aura of perfection as opposed to sharing what you learned and what they would have done differently. But sharing these insights, while it may make you feel vulnerable, takes a lot of self-awareness and shows that the candidate is willing to learn. At the end of the day, the candidate is responsible for making the interview a positive experience. Only you can control what it feels like to talk to you. Consider practicing your stories on a friend to get some feedback, or recording a video of yourself answering some common interview questions. Both of these approaches may feel wildly uncomfortable, but will help you understand how you show up. 93% of communication is nonverbal, after all. So if your body language is at odds with what's coming out of your mouth, you may want to break some bad habits before the interview. But above all, remember to be yourself. Companies want to hire humans with breadth and depth of experiences, perspectives, attitudes, and opinions. It's okay to show your personality in an interview. In fact, I encourage it because you will never bore someone into hiring you. At the end of the day, communicating your potential starts with believing in your potential. Establish the right balance between confidence and humility, and you'll leave the hiring manager thinking, they are equipped with the right resources, and maybe this person could accomplish something truly great for our organization. So good luck to all of you.
Sue Ellen, thank you very, very much. Practice, practice, practice. That's Mark and Walt's mantra, I think. It's what they say
I think so.
night. You have to practice. All right.
Practice, practice, practice.
All right. So coming up here in just a couple minutes, we're going to hear from Walt, who's going to be talking about informational interviewing. Upcoming sessions we have for the rest for the month of November. On the next Friday, we'll be doing open forum, so we'll answer whatever questions you have. You have questions about your job search, we'll give you some answers. We'll have a discussion. So, put your questions together right now. On the 13th, Career DFW is turning 12 years old. Well, actually, we turn on the 8th, I guess, but that's the closest Friday. So I'll be doing a presentation on how to use Career DFW in your job search, and I'll share some career tips that I think everybody needs to be thinking about if you haven't done already. On the 20th, we're going to have a very interesting presentation here about the trauma of job loss. It's going to be more of a discussion between two people sort of talking about what it is versus not really a PowerPoint presentation, but it should be a very interesting thing. They're putting it together right now, so we look forward to that. And then the Friday after Thanksgiving, we will not have a meeting. So we'll see everybody back in December at that point. All right, so it's time to hear from Walt Glass about information interviewing. Everybody here knows who Walt is. I mean, it's just, it's unbelievable. Some of the volunteers we have in the DFW area who just give their time and give back to help job seekers. And Walt's one of those people who's done a fantastic job over the last several years. So Walt, please take it away.
Well, good morning again, everyone. And so I'll try to do a little bit better on the poetry. So we came up with something Now, in this COVID situation, we must deal with realization that we keep our positive motivation. See LinkedIn about for workshop registration. So that's about the best I could do today. Well, let's talk about informational interviewing. You know, I've taught interviewing. I've taught also in my background in leadership development about hiring side. So helping our hiring managers and hiring teams do a much better job of hiring. And so here's a third aspect of informational interviewing. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about that today. But I want to tell you first that Dennis O'Hagan actually started this type of presentation. He passed away this year. And so I've picked up a lot of the content that he uses. And so about 56% of what I'm presenting today comes from Dennis. So I just wanted to remember Dennis. So what is informational interviewing? Why do we want to have them? What keeps us from doing them? And what the heck are the steps? How do we go about doing one of these things? So let's talk about the definition a little bit. I think we all understand what it really is, but we initiate the meeting. We're looking for somebody that can basically help us, right? We're looking for information of some type that can help us. Now we got to be careful because we don't want to just use this as a how you can help me thing. We want to help them as well. But we want to have a conversation, whether it's about your career or a particular company or industry or whatever it might be, to help you get a job in the future, directly or indirectly. And it's also a good way to use for the front door into a targeted company. This is where we want to emphasize the use of informational interviews. And so why do we want to have them? So I came up with a few reasons. It'd be nice to get some information from people who are really knowledgeable in a particular area that can increase our knowledge and abilities. We want to find out. So, you know, I'm considering doing this in my career and I'm looking for a change. And so maybe they could give us some help and information about what we would need to do to accomplish that and to move in that direction. What's going on in the world today? What's happening with trends, particularly if you're changing industries or if you're going into a IT world, you know, IT is changing all the time. What's going on? What's happening? Where are the changes? What can we look forward to? Or just get any specific information about anything. So I like to get subjective information, get more personal information, you know, about your success, your experience, your background, your history, how have you found success, things like that. To get more reflective information, what's still in the job atmosphere? What are the demands of the job? What are the joys? What are the sorrows? So that's just specifically about the job itself. How about getting an assessment of what our aspirations are? What are our skills, strategy, our resume, et cetera, whatever you can think of. I know Carol Burgell does a lot of work with just resumes to take a look, and in her sessions, she will pick out a couple and work through helping you do a better job with your resume. Good, that's really just like an informational interview. Find out about company, industry, competition, product, services. Do you really want to work there? Maybe this is a place you want to find out, is this kind of company I want to work for, and use it for that purpose. And of course, to build rapport and make a connection to get a potential referral, and then to discover what you can do for them. I'm going to go ahead and jump in with a definition of networking, which is part of informational interviewing, and define it this way. It is building and maintaining a mutually beneficial relationship, okay? It's not one-sided. How can we do win-win? So let's do a little poll here. Jeff, if you could put out the poll and say, pick out one thing. This is the most significant thing that's a barrier for us to conduct informational interviews.
For those people on Facebook, you can just enter A, B, C, D, E, or F in the comment box.
few more left to vote. Hope everybody's voting. This is practice voting for the presidential election and all the rest of the candidates. You don't have to wear a mask today.
So we're only selecting one that is what?
Yeah, which one is the biggest barrier for you?
Okay.
I mean, you know, they all may fit
Right.
to
But
some
there is
degree,
no wrong
but which
answer.
one is your biggest barrier?
Okay, thank you.
Well, I guess we're about done, Jeff. All right. So the winner seems to be the biggest barrier is I just find it difficult to ask for help. It's hard for me to go up to people and ask for help. And the next one comes up is don't know how to initiate the request, how to get started with that. And then the others come in kind of, you know, I'm not connected enough, I'm not ready yet, kind of close to the tie. And then the lowest two is I'm not good at it and I'm going to regret, meaning I'm going to go ask for something, I want to do this, and they're going to come back and tell me this is not a good idea. You don't want to do that kind of thing. All right, so that's not atypical of what I would expect in this particular type of barrier. All right. So it's very interesting that we're afraid to ask for help. But let me ask you something. I'm going to ask every one of you. I want you to, if you got your participant window, this is a yes or no question. If someone asked you for some help with something, are you the kind of person that would probably give it? I haven't gotten any no's yet.
No no's, and a lot of people put it in the chat window too, if you're not looking to chat. Yeah.
Okay. So it's kind of interesting. What's going on here? We're afraid to ask for help, but if somebody were to ask us, we would give it. So what's wrong with us? Why don't we ask? Because there's people out there. In fact, we sometimes are so not wanting other people to help us sometimes that we ought to stop and think and say, you know, I want to be kind of independent. So I don't need help from others. I don't want to ask for it. And so I would say to you, you know, there's times when we need to let other people help us. There's times when they want to help us and we should let them help us. Okay. That makes them feel good. It makes us feel good when we help somebody. And we're kind of standoffish about that. So don't let that be the reason. So it's kind of interesting how that comes up. All right, so let's talk, how can we overcome some of these things? What we're going to do today is about that. So let's talk about the steps of the informational interview. Number one, you know, if you don't know what you want to do, if you don't know what your strengths are, you don't know what your skills are, you don't know the activities that you love to do, you don't know the things that you can do that make a difference for an organization, basically how you can help them, it's pretty hard to go out and find out something that you don't even know what's going on. You got to have some sort of target, right? Now, maybe you don't know about something and part of your process is to find out about it to see if that becomes something you want to do. All right. So we've got that situation. But at the same time, if somebody wants to help me and I'm saying, well, you know, I'm doing this, and they say, well, how can I help you? All right. I got to be able to tell them how they can do that. So I want to be able to do that when I'm talking with people. So if I know these things in my heart, in my DNA, this is my activity, this is my target, then it's a lot easier to express and talk with people to get some help. Identify the position and the information that you want. So maybe you want a particular position, or maybe you want particular information. So is this an industry information? Is this trend information? Is this what experience? What are you seeking? What's the purpose of talking with someone. You'll definitely have to have a purpose specific before you go into that informational interview. Then once you say that, well, then who are the people that I should talk to? We want to find out people that can help you connect to other people, right? So it's not just one person, it's many people. And it's very interesting. I find it kind of interesting that people will send me a note and say, I'm interested in the workshop. And I'm thinking, I wonder why that person didn't go to LinkedIn and look and find out something about me before they connected with me. And if I get somebody that registers, I immediately go look at LinkedIn. I go find out some information, what's happening, what's going on, what are they looking for, all that sort of thing, get to know them, what's their history, what are their interests, those kinds of things. And so we're not taking advantage of the ability to really find out some great information before we ever talk to anybody. So we want to find out about people. And when I talk with somebody, so I'm talking with, maybe I've talked with Jeff, and I'm saying, Jeff, I've heard about this thing about crystal nose, and I've heard something about, there was a session. Do you know anything about that? He said, oh yeah, Patty Bates does that. She has a presentation on it. Here's her contact information. And I could call Patty and say, Patty, this is Walt. It's really great to talk with you. I was talking with Jeff, and I saw a presentation you had on crystal nose about that. And could I spend a few minutes with you? Because I know you have experience. You've become probably one of the experts on that particular topic. And I'd be interested in your perspective and how I might be able to use that as I move forward in my career. All right. What do you think Patty would say? All right. You'd probably say, well, sure, come on down. Let's talk about it. Research, people, company, industry, competition. Don't go in with zero information. Go in with information that you can find out about what you want to talk about so that you just don't come in like a blank sheet of paper, right? And will it appear that this is happening and going on? What would you say about that? That kind of stuff. So do some homework. It isn't just walk in the door. And then prepare and practice to get the interview. I like to use Nike's, their logo, not the old swoosh, but it says, just do it. If you want to learn something, do it. I can remember one of my granddaughters, she was about 6 years old. We went to the skating rink, took her to the skating rink. Now, I don't know if you know anything about skating. It's not real popular these days, but your skates can be loose or tight. And loose skates are extremely difficult to skate on. And that girl fell about every 6 seconds. But I never stopped seeing her get up and do it again, and get up and do it again, and get up and do it again, okay? And that's what we need to do. We can make ourselves comfortable by just doing it. So here's some of the stuff that Dennis has in an approach to try to initiate the interview. So here's what he says. So the Joe Smith suggested I call you. So I call up Eldon and say, Eldon, I understand this, and Fred knows you, and suggested that I call you. All right, so it's in that kind of situation. So here's a script that you might want to use. I speak with Joe Smith the other day, suggested I contact you, making some important career decisions, might be even some valuable advice. My purpose is requesting a brief meeting, and I'm not asking for a position. I don't expect to know, email, or even have one. My goal is to get some advice from you and some insight into the marketplace. All right. So if you feel that people are thinking you're looking for a job, we want to get rid of that quickly. So one of the options is to tell them we're not looking for a job right now. We're just trying to get information. But I want to look at this. What are the key words? What's the essence of this request? Because we can use these keywords for just about any request in any situation. So I'm looking to make some career decisions. You can give me some valuable advice. Priscilla, if I came to you and said, I think you could give me some valuable advice, how would you feel? Just hit your space bar and tell me. If I said that to you and say, hey, I think you can give me some valuable advice, how would you feel? Okay, we'll skip it. But how would you feel? How would you
Oh,
feel
I,
if,
I thought you were wanting me to type it. I
oh,
would feel
no, I
honored.
want you to tell me.
Okay, I would feel honored. At first, it might catch me off guard as to why you singled me out. But then again, it's an opportunity to have a conversation and not only get to know each other, but to exchange in conversation.
But just the words valuable advice would tell me and tell anyone, I think, is that I think you have some good information that would be of benefit. And I'm looking at you to give me the advice. So how many times do you get people to ask you for advice? How many times do you give it and it's not wanted? But we would, if people come and say, "Oh, can you give me some advice?" That means I honor your information. I honor you. I honor your perspective. I want to listen to you. I want to hear you. I think what you're telling me is worthwhile. All right. That's a very, very key word in initiating something, to say, I think you have some great information and some good advice. So, brief meeting, just a brief meeting. And the goal is this. Here's my purpose. I'll give you some advice from you and insight into the marketplace, whatever the topic is. Let's jump to another one. We have something in common. So I found somebody on LinkedIn, perhaps, and we have something in common approach. And so I'm calling them. It's kind of like I'm contacting them out of the blue. So I found your name and contact information on the sales and business development database. The rest of it's the same as the previous one. It just says almost the same words. But how do I initiate? How did I find out about you? One is through a person. Here is through something where I found your name. Okay. And of course, the keywords are very, very similar. I'm making career changes, valuable advice, brief meeting. I'd like to get your advice and insight. The changing career direction. So for those of you who are trying to say, hey, I've been doing this and I want to do something different, here's a process or a script that you might want to use. I'm in the process of making some important career decision. Believe your advice would be extremely helpful. I'm trying to learn more about industry, position, whatever, which one of you are after. Determine if it'd be right for me. Your insight and experience can be very important as I make this decision. Only need 20 minutes of your time. Can we set up a meeting? Okay. Back to those key words. All I'm trying to get to think about on the key words is saying, here are the things. You can put any sentence you want into this, but if we use these key words, these are the things we can help move forward in obtaining that informational interview. So the advice on my job search strategy. All right. Now, maybe I'm talking to a recruiter. Maybe I'm talking to anyone who's knows things about looking for a job. I hope I get to meet with you for about 20 minutes because I'm making a career change. I don't really am asking you for a position. I'm not looking for that. What I'd like to do is share my strategy and hear any suggestions you might have. Right? So I want to share this information and I want you to get feedback from you. And whatever the feedback is, we thank them for it. Okay, whether we like it or not. So, oh, that's great. Appreciate that. So there's the key words for that one. So I'm making some career changes. I'm making some decisions of some type. My purpose here is to do this. Could I get some advice, insight, and suggestions from you? And I'm just wanting a brief meeting. So I'm kind of gearing it around those 4 elements into how to initiate this particular informational interview. Now, we've talked about some scripts and things. Let's go to the next one. So how do we handle objections? This is some more stuff from Dennis. Well, they say, I don't have time to see you. Well, here's a suggestion. I realize you're busy. I'm only asking for a few minutes. Would it be more convenient for you to do this over the phone? I want to suggest to you that we still try to do a face-to-face meeting. There's still ways we might be able to do that, wear a mask, meet somewhere. Why not try, even though it might be over the phone? But do not eliminate that just because of COVID, or just because we don't think we'll be able to do it. Because face-to-face would be much better. So still work for the face-to-face. And then if not, okay, over the phone would be next. Just send me your resume, okay? In other words, I'm kind of blowing you off, but I'll take your resume. Well, I'd be glad to do that, but at this stage, I'm only looking for information and advice that would help me direct my job search. I don't think I can be of help to you. Well, you know, Joe told me that you know a lot about this particular thing. You certainly know more than I do, and you probably know more than you give yourself a lot of credit for that knowledge. We have no openings at present. All right, I appreciate that. However, I'm currently looking for is information. So we get them off of the I'm looking for a job and into the information side. I get a lot of calls from job seekers. Well, I guess that's because of your knowledge and experience. And that's why I'm going to ask you in a few minutes of your time. Let me transfer you to the head of recruiting. That'd be very helpful. All right. Would it be possible to spend a couple of minutes with you first to get some more specific advice and insight? So these are sample scripts of how you might handle the objections and how you might initiate this. I would suggest you just try them out. I don't have any contacts because we've asked for some contacts, but I'm looking for advice and information. So your background and knowledge in this field is what I'm really interested in. So I can get away from the contacts information. So there's some ways you might handle any objections. Now we need to prepare our questions before we go in. This is critical and important. We all know that we've got to do this, but what is it you want to know? What is the information? How many questions do you think you can talk about and discuss in 20 minutes? Now, sometimes you say, I just like 15 or 20 minutes of your time. They hear 15 and you hear 20. I suggest we don't give a range. I say, here's a specific amount of time that I want to talk with you. Make it as time, and then you're going to stick to it, whatever that is. So how will we prepare questions? So here's a whole bunch of questions you can find out there. Typical day, what do you like most? What are the typical of others? What are the current job prospects? How do you stay current in your knowledge? So if that's in the industry, what type of employers are looking for this type of job, looking for this type of skill? Is there a career ladder for this? And this is a whole series of questions. You can look up a whole bunch of things that are out there to find out information that would help. I prioritize those and get the most important ones up front. There's a whole bunch of them. I'll drop this presentation in the chat window so you can get a list of all these things to look at. But you know, one of the best questions I like is you ask specifics about what you're looking for is, and what else do I need to know? Okay, so I may not have asked a question about a key thing that would be specific, that would be really great, helpful to me, not just what I'm listing. All right. So you might have that as what else do I need to know? What else do you think is important or critical for whatever knowledge you're seeking? So steps, we're going to go through these 7. Now we're on number 8, which is the interview itself. So we have an opening. We want to introduce ourselves and the purpose of the meeting. So we've scheduled it, we've got it. We cannot rely on anything in their memory about who, what, when, where, why, all that sort of thing. So we're going to introduce ourselves and say, this is it. I really appreciate the information that you can give and the advice that you have and the knowledge that you have that might help me, whatever it is, on the purpose of this particular meeting. Then we have questions. So you should have a range of questions. Whatever your specific is, should be a range of questions about that specificity. So if it's industry, a range of questions about the industry. If it's competitors, a range of questions. If it's about the company, a range about the company. Maybe this is a target company. You're finding out if you want to work there. So I'm very interested in your company. I'd like to find out more information about it and that kind of thing. So now what are the company questions you might find? And then the person themselves. People like to talk about themselves. So when you ask questions about them and their background or their experience or the kind of things that they've had in their past, they enjoy talking about that. They don't usually get much of a chance to do that. So ask those kind of questions as well. And then there's the close. You want to end the interview. So how do you finish? Example, I really appreciate all your advice. It's very helpful and it should improve my career decision considerably. Whatever the sentence is, it says, I think that the information you gave me is valuable and is going to help me pursue the goal of what I wanted to do based on the topic of the informational interview. I want to stop there. I want to do something else. I said, you know, other people who might be able to give me advice as well. So I want to find out as much research as possible, and their advice might be helpful as well to get a different perspective. Every connection you make is an opportunity to make 2 more connections. So when you make a connection, is there anybody else I know? Anybody else you know? Somebody else. So during the coming weeks, should you hear of any job opportunities with my interests and qualifications, I appreciate being kept in mind. So this is what you would use for a target company. Please feel free to pass my name on, all right? And then here's a simple thing that probably gets no answer, but is a great thing to do. It says, well, I'll tell you, you've given me a lot of good information. Now, what can I do for you? Is there something that I can do to help you? Just asking the question shows that you're interested in them. You are trying to give something back to them. They may say, oh, no, I don't have anything. Or it may be, I know other people that may be interested. Maybe they're talking about XYZ and that's not in your bailiwick, but you know somebody that's in XYZ. So I know somebody that could help maybe with that. Yeah, those kinds of things. So what can I do to help you? Nice open-ended question. Stay within your time limit. If you say 20 minutes, then at the end of the 20 minutes, you say, it's been 20 minutes. This is the time you give me. I appreciate that. If you would like to talk some more, I still have some more time to talk with you. If you would like to continue on, so you leave it open. So if they can do that, that they'd be fine. But honor your commitment to stay to the 20 minutes. Okay. That's very, very important and very different, because we kind of assume sometimes if they want to talk longer, we just let them talk longer. But if you come back and say, well, I asked for 20, our 20's up, and I respect that, you're going to make a difference. It's going to be much more positive. Now, they may be asking questions about you. These informational interviews can turn into other types of information, and that's about you. It can actually turn into a hiring interview. They can start talking. They can say, well, tell me about you. Tell me about what you're looking for. Tell me about whatever it is. So then we've got to have that preparation of saying, well, I'm an interview success coach. I enjoy helping people gain the skills and confidence for successful interviews, and I do it through this. And do you know anybody that might need some help with interviewing? Okay. I could just tell something about me to give them to understand where I'm coming from. Now, have your business cards, bio, and resume handy. Now, today we do it through chat. We can drop in a resume. We can drop in a bio. Now, for informational interviews, I strongly recommend the bio, right, Jeff? It's saying I'm not looking necessarily for a job like a resume does. It's saying this is some information about me, and a bio comes across a lot different. It also, if they want to go talk to somebody else, they have a bio in their hand to say, here's some information I can give to you about this person, which is a wonderful tool. I suggest everybody should have a bio. I think Carol McHale talked about bios recently, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, and then be prepared for the job interview, because some of these will morph. There was a presenter talking one day on a particular topic and said, well, I contacted a person. I heard from somebody that he was struggling in a particular area. So I called him up and said, hey, can I come talk to you? I'd like to see what's going on, what's happening. Okay, which is, they knew each other a little bit, so they didn't need to go through that process. Well, they started having a discussion, and the presenter said, basically, there were several things I could help him with, so I went to work for him, all right? Well, that one little sentence gives you the whole key. It says, I found some things I could help them with. One of the neat things about an informational interview that can occur is that you might be able to discover needs and problems that they have that they do not recognize that they have them. And that could turn into something that says, we need somebody to come help us do these. Not only do you recognize them, but you have ways of trying to, work that to make things better for us. So that's a potential thing in an informational interview. It can morph into that hiring interview. So be prepared for that when you walk in. All right, the follow-up. So we're down towards the end. I would say that follow-up is shallow most of the time. Little follow-up note says, appreciate the time you talked with me, whatever it might be. just kind of a simple little thing. Appreciate your advice, whatever it is. And we just kind of leave it there. It's very interesting because of the several connections, many connections that I've made, people say, do you know anybody? And so I give them some information about that person. I never hear what happened. I never get any follow-up. I never get any feedback. He says, well, I did talk to him or this, or I didn't talk. It just drops off. I get thank you email, so thank you for the information, and it stops. Well, that's not very good follow-up. You come back and say, well, gee, I know you was asking me for some advice. And so my question to you is, did it help? Did it do anything? Did it make a difference? That sort of thing. So that can make our follow-up a lot deeper by saying, yes, you made a difference. There's nothing better, I think, to tell people genuinely and authentically that they are making a difference, whether it's in the company, whether it's in the team, whether it's personally, whether it's with me, whatever it might be, they're making a difference. It's one of the greatest phrases I think you can have. I can go up to Ellen and say, Ellen, you know, you give these information and talk about the workshops and fairs and stuff like that every week, and you're making a difference. You're notifying people of the potential information out there that can help them succeed in their job search. You are making a difference. Anybody who doesn't enjoy hearing somebody tell them that genuinely, authentically, would be a very weird person to me, because it is a great thing to tell people that you are helping me. Not just thank you, but here's how you help me, whatever. So a little bit more on the thank yous. And of course, track it. What's happening when? So get your spreadsheet together. Who'd you talk to? What you discussed? What are the next steps? And be a follow-up. All right. Any questions? This is pretty short. I try to be brief today. I want to practice brevity. I talk too long most of the time, so I'm trying to work on that. But I will be glad to take any questions that you have, either in chat or just unmute yourself, jump in.
Jason, you had a question, or you typed it in chat. I'll let you just ask it in person if you want to unmute yourself.
So I noticed some of the examples people put in the chat, as well as the ones that you included. When we're first getting to know somebody, if we don't really know them, isn't it best just to keep the words at a minimum, to try to, I mean, minimize the time that they have to read something. Just kind of makes it a little bit better for them and for us, I think. Would that?
Well, brevity is a good approach to start with on just about any conversation, and then let it develop into something else. I mean, it depends on the situation, of course. Minimizing the words, it really depends on the situation, but I think you got the right idea. So we don't need to talk too much about this. Here's the purpose. Here's what I want. So I would agree with your approach on that. But I would also say this. All right, suppose Jeff says, oh, you want to know about Crystal Knows, you need to talk to Patty Beige. My first question would be, how well do you know Patty? I want to find out the relationship. Okay, I've got a referral perhaps here, so that when I call Patty, I'll go look her up. I'll find out something about them in advance. So it's not just like going in and saying, well, because I can start introducing them and say, well, I know that you make some of the most fabulous spaghetti that I've ever heard. Everybody tells me that you make the best spaghetti. And I'm wanting to learn how to make spaghetti. Could you give me some information and advice about how I could do that? Right? Whatever it might be. Does that help?
That's great. Thanks.
My suggestion to you is start with people who are your friends and say, hey, I want to practice this request for informational interview. Do it in a safe zone. Start saying the words, repeating them, do them all, whatever it might be. Get your ideas of saying, here's what I want to say. If you kind of script it out prior to your introduction to that person and say, okay, here's what I want to tell them, and I write it down and script it out, and I practice that, and it's going to give me confidence to do it with that person. Go back and look at the keywords. Just say, okay, I want to make sure that these 4 elements are in that request so that I've got that information in there. And then just start practicing, just start doing. I'll tell you, it's with anything else. If you want to learn something, you're going to fail somewhere along the way. It's not going to be smooth all the way through. There will be some ups and downs. There'll be some that just don't work out whatsoever. There will be people who cut you off. There will be rejection. There will be just, here it is. No, I don't have time, whatever it might be. But if I can find out, particularly through referrals is such a strong way to introduce. I found out about you. In fact, if I was talking with Jeff and he says, you need to talk to Patty, and I said, well, how do you know Patty? And he would tell me, and I said, would you ask Patty if she would be interested in talking with me? I'd like to talk with her about these things. Would you ask her if she would be, would she take my call? Right? And so I warm it up. It's called warming it up. So if I can get that in advance, that's going to be much better than just calling and saying, well, I heard from Jeff about you. When I do referrals, I call the person or I email the person and say, I've got a person who's interested in your particular company, this kind of position, this kind of information. Would you be willing to talk with them? And I ask for permission before I just say, here, go call person A. And they come back to me and say, yes, and then fine. And so then I send out the email to the other person and say, here it is. And when some people ask me for information about people or connection, I come back and say, here's how I know them. They came through the workshop 2 years ago. It's the only contact that I've really had with them. But you've been through the workshop, they've been for the workshop, you got a common connection. It's a great thing to start your interview request with is hey, say, I'm looking at Linda Brown because she's near the top of the screen. And so I can look at the camera and see Linda at the same time. And then I say, Linda, I'm really interested in how will you know about Mike, what your relationship is, and do you think he would be willing to talk with me about this? If the relationship is really strong between Linda and Mike, I got a much better chance. If the relationship is, I don't know, they're just a contact, I don't know anything about them, I just saw them on LinkedIn. Well, then I go to LinkedIn, I put in that person and see if I can find somebody who knows them, all right? And I start looking for first connection contacts or their seconds or whatever it might be to find out those kinds of things. So some research and preparation is how I would go about doing this that I suggest to you. Go in there with some knowledge. Don't go in there blind. Go in there with some knowledge.
Greg, you had a question. Do you want to ask it or do you want me to read it?
I'll go ahead.
Okay.
Hey, Walt,
Hey,
this is Greg. Thanks for all the information. I'm running into the person that answers the phone automatically transferring me to their voicemail since they're working remotely. So they're transferring them to their cell phone and it's going to voicemail. Are there any tips to get to talk to them actually, or just keep trying?
Yes. Doesn't hurt to leave a message. Doesn't hurt to go use any avenue and any type of approach you might be able to get through. What's the harm? I mean, how's it going to hurt you, right?
Right.
And if they get a few phone calls from you and they get an email from you and you leave a couple of voice messages from you, I may say, I think I'll call this person, all right?
But
listen to J.R. Better's presentation. I really think he gives a good one. And he talks about, after 5 tries, quit. Use different media, use different ways of connecting with people. But if they don't want to connect with you after 5, it's no longer a worth your time. You've done enough.
I think the most important thing when you're leaving a message is, I'm sorry I missed your phone call, or sorry I missed talking with you. I understand you're busy. I will call you next Tuesday at 4 o'clock. And next Tuesday at 4 o'clock, you call them at Tuesday at 4 o'clock. If you don't reach them, leave them another message. I will call you Thursday at 9 o'clock in the morning. And continue to do that, because at some point when they see your number keep popping up, they will either put a restraining order against you to stop calling, or they may pick up the phone. So, just make sure, just like at the end of an interview, you want to leave a plan of action. You don't want to just leave it open. Well, I look forward to hearing from you. Give them a firm time that, if I don't hear from you by next Wednesday, I will call you Thursday at, 9:00 in the morning or whatever. So do that the same way, especially when you're leaving voicemails.
Okay, thanks, Jeff.
You're welcome. All right, anybody else have any other questions for Walt? You're welcome just to unmute your mic and ask away.
Well, Jeff, you kind of touched on it jokingly, but really, how do you walk that thin line of being persistent, politely persistent, versus being a pain in the you-know-what?
Well, I think that, if you're reaching out to somebody once a week, that's persistent. If you're reaching out to them every day, that's annoying. I think at some point they're gonna either tell you, thanks, I can't help you, or they will, pick up the phone and they'll allow you to talk. So I think it's just a matter of, I would say once a week. I don't know, Walt, do you have a different opinion there?
Well, I certainly wouldn't do more, maybe 3-4 days initially, once a week. After that, it depends on if you can find a strong relationship between person A and person B, and you leave in that voicemail, you say, I was talking with Jeff. He says great things about you, says, you're extremely knowledgeable about these particulars. I would love to talk with you for a few minutes. Just to get some information about the same type of script you would use online, or if you're talking to them, just leave that in the voicemail, and then say, and if I don't hear from you, I'll give you another call, and you can. I would say initially maybe 3 or 4 days, and then after a couple of those, I'll wait a week. If you haven't had a chance to listen to Jay, his methodology is saying contact them through different media. Not just one way. You can use the phone, you can use email, you can use other things to connect with them. And after about so many times, he said, just, go on with somebody else because they're not responding.
And we've had another speaker, and I can't think of his name, and he talks about, that 5 to 7 times. 7 times is all he would reach out. But I think he says in his 6th or 7th message, he says, I've reached out to you 5 or 6 times. I am not going to bother you anymore. Thank you very much.
Right.
And by doing that, he says sometimes when he does that I'm not going to reach out, all of a sudden the person will pick up the phone and call him. So you never know what that little spark will be to do it. So, maybe 5, 6, or 7, the last time you do it, I was hoping to be able to reach you, but since it doesn't look like we're not going to connect, I will stop calling you. If you have an opportunity to reach out, I really appreciate hearing from you, but I won't be calling you anymore.
Jeff, you took the words right out of my mouth, because that's what I was going to comment on. And I think it was Terry Sullivan.
It wasn't Terry. It was a sales guy who does sales. He does professional sales training.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Well, I know Terry Sullivan has done it too, because he's got a script that's exactly what you just stated. And like you said, sometimes people will answer, whether their answer is, I was just so busy, I do grossly apologize, or that they'll own up to and said, I don't have any information to share with you, but I wish you the best of luck.
Right. I'm looking right now to see if I can find his name in past speakers. So, Tim Wackel. His name is Tim Wackel.
Tim Wackel.
Yeah.
Spell the last name.
Wackel, W-A-C-K-L-E, I think. You can follow him on Facebook. He posts some really good. You follow him on LinkedIn. He's got some really good posts he puts on about sales training.
And if they do call you, and say, I really don't have any, whatever it is, then you come back and say, well, do you know anybody else? Do you know of a couple of people that might be able to give me this type of information? And you try to pass that, get on down the road with someone else.
Right.
That technique is very common in the sales world. I work with sales teams, and it's called like a close the file. And to Jeff's point, it does can generate some responses. So, you can get maybe a 10 to 20% hit rate. That's not uncommon.
Right.
A lot of this process after preparation is selling, marketing and selling. There's a lot of selling going on, and all the sales techniques have value as well.
So Melissa, the first time you reach out to somebody, for the most part, it's usually the third, fourth, or fifth time you've reached out to them that they may actually answer. It takes multiple times in many cases in sales to make that sale, right?
Yeah, it takes a lot of time I work with sales development reps, BDRs, and their target is somewhere between 10 to 12 times via multiple channels, and then try that close the file.
Right, right.
My
Any other
colleges
questions?
contacted me 14 times about donating, and they don't stop. They just keep going.
Right, right. Any other questions for Walt?
Another question, a question for you, Jeff. Did you get what Sonia had sent to you?
I haven't looked yet. I'll check my emails after the meeting, but I will forward that out. I will also put out Walt's presentation today. I'll put that in my email this afternoon to everybody. And along with, I will also include Dennis O'Hagan's original 5-page handout that he has. I'll include that in this afternoon's email to everybody. So as long as I have your email address, you've put your information into the chat box, or if you're first time, or if you're already on the roster, you don't have to do that. But I will get all that information out to you this afternoon.
And how did you spell Terry's last name again?
Terry Sullivan or Tim
No.
Wackel?
Tim, sorry, Tim Wackel.
Let me look here again, make sure I get it right.
C-K-E-L, W-A-C-K-E-L.
I think so, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, he's a good guy to follow. I've tried to get him to speak to the group, and it just depends on how busy he is. So I probably should reach out to him again, just because now that he's sort of stuck at home and can't be traveling, I guess he can get more Zoom calls in every day. So, well, Walt, thank you very much for your presentation. Linda, thank you very much for the birthday wishes. All right, so let me share my screen, and we'll go through the last couple of slides I have here. So for everybody else, if you're not receiving emails from the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Yahoo group, the Yahoo groups are going away as of December 15th. So hopefully in the next week or two, I will come up with a different method on how to contact. Everybody will have to register. I know that some people are going to Google Groups, some people are using other things, but we'll have to come up with a new method, and we will look at that. So if you haven't, for those people on Facebook, if you're not part of the group and you haven't put your contact information in the chat box, in the comment box, please do so. Next slide here. All right, so next Friday, we're going to have open forum. So if you have questions about your job search, we'll just, potpourri, we'll just sort of ask questions all around and just sort of see what's going on, see what you want to talk about. So please come up with some questions, jot them down, put them on a little sticky note next to your monitor for next Friday. For those people who have not put in their 30-second introductions, we ask that you please do that. Name, phone number, email address, position you're looking for, 2 or 3 target companies, and then please hit the return key. That way you'll get all the information in together. When you do that, I will add all that information to the roster. I will send out the roster along with Walt's presentation, along with the other things that I've got. So there's probably 4 attachments coming out this afternoon. Be sure to check your spam folder just in case that's where it lands up, because when I send things out to 50 or 60 people, that's where it tends to go to. Join us next week for Career DFW and Career USA training. Every Tuesday, we do LinkedIn training, Tuesday at 1 o'clock. If you weren't able to see Kurt Vondermatter a month ago, he's going to be back talking about LinkedIn from a recruiter's eye. He is a professional recruiter, executive recruiter. He pays LinkedIn $20,000 a year to use the recruiting package. And he's going to show us what it looks like from the back end. So if you want to get caught by a recruiter, you want to listen to this, you want to listen to Kurt, because he will tell you some really valuable things that you can pick up. Coming up on Wednesday, our interview Wednesdays, we've already talked about, we're now doing for November, December special guest series. Next Wednesday, Confident Candidates, Lesson from the Pit Crew with Mark McDonald. And then we've got 5 other speakers who will be talking about interviewing from their perspective for the rest of November and December. On Thursday, we'll be doing our effective resume session again. Please join us next Thursday. And then in 2 Thursdays, just FYI for effective resumes, we're going to have Tony Bashera from Babbitt & Associates will be giving his perspective on resumes in a couple weeks. So be sure to join us. And every week, the resume thing is just a little bit different. We mix it up with some new and interesting information. Starting next week, just as let everybody know, for all those seminars that we're doing and next Friday's LinkedIn, next Friday's North Dallas group, there will be new Zoom logins. So if you've been saving any of the old ones, you can delete them all. Starting next week, you do have to have a password. It'll be part of the link that I'll be putting out on a daily basis in the emails and on LinkedIn. So, please check out those new logins, and that should help prevent us from having to use the waiting room. So that by doing that, so all new logins starting next week on Zoom. These sessions will be recorded, have been recorded. It will be on the Career to FW Facebook page, and I will be uploading it to the Career USA YouTube channel a little bit later this afternoon. Please be sure to check each page. Follow us on Facebook if you would. Subscribe to us on YouTube, and that would be really appreciated. If you go to the YouTube channel, I recommend you click on the green arrow where it says playlist, and then don't click on the video, but at the very bottom of it where it says view full playlist, if you click there, up will come a list of everything that's going on. So Walt, thank you very much for your time today. Everybody else, thank you for joining us. Please have a great weekend, and it'll be beautiful weather after 4 days of clouds and rain, and so hopefully get out, take a walk, and have a great weekend.
Have a great weekend.
And don't eat too much Halloween candy.
Or birthday cake, Jeff.
Thanks.
Thank you.